Life has a strange way of disguising itself as order, while quietly arranging your days into patterns you never truly chose. The calendar fills, the conversations repeat, the identity you carry becomes less a discovery and more a rehearsal. Sociologists today note that much of human behavior is borrowed. Copied scripts, inherited traditions, invisible pressures. Kierkegaard saw it long before the data confirmed it. The danger of existing only as an echo of expectation. A person can live decades this way, never once touching their own essence. And so begins our first step, the trap of roles and expectations. The trap of roles and expectations is not something a person walks into suddenly. It is sewn into them quietly, thread by thread, until the garment feels like skin. From the earliest years, identities are spoken over us. Be the good child, the diligent student, the dependable worker, the agreeable partner. Each role carries with it an invisible contract. To comply is to belong. To resist is to risk exile. And so the mask is worn long before the wearer ever notices its weight. Kierkegaard wrote of this danger with a kind of prophetic severity, for he knew that when existence is reduced to performance, individuality is the first casualty. Modern psychology confirms what he intuited in the 19th century. Studies on social conformity reveal how easily human beings bend under the gaze of the group. Solomon Asch's classic experiments showed that even when the truth was visible before their eyes, most people conformed to an obviously false majority rather than risk standing apart. The need for acceptance, rooted in the brain's social circuitry, often outweighs the evidence of one's own perception. Neuroscientists have noted that social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. To be excluded is not simply unpleasant, it wounds. Thus, the weight of expectation is felt not as an idea, but as an ache in the body itself. Over time, the roles calcify. The dutiful son who never questioned his obligations becomes the man who no longer remembers what he once desired. The reliable employee, praised for stability, forgets that stability is not the same as fulfillment. The partner who strives to embody the image of the perfect companion discovers that perfection is a prison, not a promise. What began as adaptation becomes estrangement. One lives not from the center, but from the surface, repeating lines written by others. Kierkegaard feared that such existence, though it may appear orderly, is a profound form of despair, the quiet suffocation of a self that was never allowed to breathe. And in this despair, the individual begins to confuse the mask with the face. He forgets the possibility that life could be otherwise. But the mask is not only imposed, it is maintained by something deeper. Fear. The fear that if one abandons the roles, there will be nothing to stand upon. Here lies the second snare Kierkegaard described. The hesitation before true choice, the trembling that comes when a person realizes freedom is both a gift and a burden. And so we move toward the next question. What does it mean to live not under expectations, but under the weight of one's own decisions, the fear of making your own choices? If this content is resonating with you, consider subscribing. I make videos that help you see the world and yourself more clearly. Thank you. Fear of making one's own choices is not a modern invention. It is an old paralysis dressed in new clothes. Kierkegaard saw that freedom terrifies as much as it liberates. To choose is to step into uncertainty, to stand without the scaffolding of tradition, approval, or inherited scripts. It is far easier, he argued, to let the world decide in your place, to drift along the current of expectations and call it destiny. Yet indecision, as he warned, is itself a decision, a surrender of authorship over one's own existence. Contemporary research has illuminated why this trembling before freedom feels so overwhelming. Psychologists speak of choice overload, the paralysis that emerges when too many options are presented. Experiments by Sheena Iyengar and others have shown that when people are confronted with endless possibilities, dozens of career paths, countless lifestyles, infinite versions of success, they often retreat into avoidance. Rather than embrace the burden of deciding, they cling to the ready-made roles handed down to them. Neuroimaging studies confirm this hesitance. The brain registers difficult decisions as a form of stress, activating regions tied to fear and conflict. The result is not clarity but delay, not freedom but the comfort of postponement. Yet postponement is never neutral. Life does not wait politely for the undecided. Opportunities vanish, relationships wither, time advances with or without consent. The avoidance of choice becomes its own hidden choice, the decision to live passively, to be carried rather than to walk. Kierkegaard named this the despair of possibility, where the infinite range of what might be is reduced to the safety of what already is. And so entire lives are postponed. The student who never risks pursuing his true calling finds himself in middle age, loyal not to his passion but to a paycheck. The partner who fears ending a stagnant relationship stays until years have passed, wondering what might have been. The individual who waits for the perfect moment to begin discovers that perfection was only a mask for fear. This avoidance carries another cost, the erosion of self-respect. For while conformity promises security, the silent knowledge that one has not chosen corrodes from within. Modern clinical psychology has shown that a lack of agency, feeling that one's life is controlled by forces outside the self, is strongly linked to depression and hopelessness. Kierkegaard anticipated this long before, that despair arises not only from wrong choices, but from never daring to choose at all. And when choices are evaded, something curious takes their place. The self, hungry for direction, often turns to imitation, borrowing its certainty from the crowd, repeating gestures and beliefs not its own. Thus, the fear of authentic choice gives way to the comfort of imitation. The comfort of imitation is a quieter chain, yet perhaps the most enduring. To imitate is to live inside a reflection, to borrow another's words, opinions, and ambitions as if they were one's own. Kierkegaard called this an inauthentic existence, a life diluted into repetition. And repetition has a peculiar charm. It feels safe. To echo the majority is to belong. To stand apart is to risk isolation. Thus, many surrender individuality not through force, but through the ease of conformity. Modern psychology offers a parallel insight. Research on social proof demonstrates that individuals often copy the behavior of others in uncertain situations, trusting the group over their own judgment. Studies in neuroscience have even shown that when a person's opinion contradicts the majority, the brain's conflict centers activate, producing discomfort as though a mistake were being made. In this way, imitation does not simply soothe the social fear of exclusion, it rewires the very perception of truth. To agree with the crowd feels correct, even when it is not. This tendency extends beyond trivial matters. Careers are chosen because they resemble success in the eyes of others. Opinions are repeated not from reflection but from exposure, as algorithms feed back the very thoughts that are most common. Even dreams are borrowed. The house, the car, the image of stability. Life becomes a collage assembled from what is already familiar, leaving little room for the raw strangeness of one's own desire. And yet, beneath imitation lies a hidden hunger. For to copy is also to avoid the anguish of creation. Kierkegaard wrote that to live authentically is to bear the burden of being an individual, and many find that weight unbearable. Imitation shields them from the trembling uncertainty of originality. But the price is steep. A person may feel accepted, but what is accepted is not them, only their mask. Sociologists warn of a phenomenon they call normative conformity, the tendency to agree with the group even when privately disagreeing. Over time, the distance between the private and the public self becomes a wound. The self weakens when it ceases to be consulted. Kierkegaard called this despair, not a visible tragedy, but the invisible erosion of a life unlived. Yet there is another possibility hidden within this despair. For Kierkegaard, despair could serve as a summons, a call to step beyond imitation into something unrepeatable. But such a step is never gentle. To break with imitation is to risk uncertainty, to let go of the borrowed in order to face the unknown. And here we approach his most daring insight, that every authentic existence begins not in comfort, but in a leap into the unknown. The leap into the unknown is where Kierkegaard placed the threshold of authentic life. He called it a leap of faith, not because it is irrational, but because no calculation can eliminate uncertainty. To live authentically requires a surrender to risk. One does not know the outcome of leaving a familiar job, of ending a relationship that has grown silent, of beginning again with nothing but one's conviction. And yet, he argued, it is precisely in this trembling that true existence begins. Contemporary psychology provides an echo of this. Studies on resilience show that individuals who step into uncertainty, who expose themselves to new challenges and transitions, often emerge with greater adaptability and meaning than those who remain within rigid stability. Neuroscience adds further depth. The brain thrives on novelty. The release of dopamine, tied to curiosity and discovery, is strongest not when the outcome is certain, but when it hovers between risk and possibility. In other words, it is uncertainty itself that awakens vitality. What Kierkegaard described philosophically, modern science traces in the patterns of the nervous system. Yet the leap is not a single dramatic act. Often it is quieter, a decision made in solitude. It might look like choosing honesty in a conversation long avoided, or turning toward a vocation that promises no applause, but carries the resonance of truth. These are not grand gestures, but they demand courage because they lack guarantees. Authenticity always carries this cost, to exchange borrowed certainty for lived uncertainty. The world often mistakes such choices for recklessness. But to Kierkegaard, the greater recklessness was to remain motionless, to live as an imitation until time itself withdraws the possibility of change. He believed that despair deepens when life is endlessly postponed, and that liberation begins only when one risks stepping forward without assurance. Perhaps this is why moments of genuine decision feel both terrifying and alive. They unsettle precisely because they reveal freedom. Freedom that cannot be deferred to others or disguised in roles. And though the leap may appear dangerous, the danger of never leaping is far greater, to die without ever having lived one's own life. If these reflections stir something within, let it not vanish into silence. Share your thoughts, your hesitations, even the leaps you have dared or still fear. For dialogue itself can be a kind of leap, an opening into what might be discovered together.